adding animal chiropractic even to a farm, a rural veterinary practice is a great way to save your farmers money because they save money on feed, they save money on labor. The animals are easier to handle. The other thing it does is it levels out the cash flow of that farm practice.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs. I am so excited today. We have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Amy Hayek. Dr. Hayek has a post-doctoral and get this, a lot of degrees in acupuncture, animal chiropractic, advanced neurology, and nutrition. As a private practitioner, Dr. Amy saw many horses who were unable to achieve really optimal health through traditional medicine. However, she was able to optimize these results through a combination of chiropractic and nutrition. She integrates these holistic treatments and teaches other doctors how to do the same. And in addition to today maintaining her own private practice, Dr. Amy co-founded Animal Chiropractic Education Sources, which specializes in teaching veterinarians and chiropractors how to build a successful practice. And so today we're going to talk about how to build a successful veterinary practice. And please join me in welcoming Dr. Amy Hayek to the platform. Hi, Dr. Amy. How are you today?
Hi, Susanne. Thank you very much for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of the guru when it comes to helping practices grow. So thanks so much for having me today.
Well, we are excited to have you because, I am a big fan of what you do with, just really teaching practitioners how to really build practices, and two, introducing an alternative medicine, right? That's not necessarily chemical related in order to build healthier animals. So I am so excited about what you do with that. Dr. Amy, first of all, tell us a little bit about what you do and your background and how you found this.
Oh, thank you. So I went to veterinary school, not right away. So veterinary school was not my first career, but it was my first choice of careers, if that makes sense. Veterinarians in general live kind of that law of impostor syndrome a lot. And I'm a product of that as well. Went to veterinary school, and during veterinary school, I kept listening to the things that we learned about drugs and how to use them in our patients. And I kept having questions that weren't getting answered. So not long after that, I went and took my first acupuncture course, thinking that would help solve that desire for me to understand what's the cause? Why are we doing it this way? And that it kind of answered it, but not as much as when one of my friends suggested I go take a chiropractic course. So I did the chiropractic course, and within the first day of class, I said, this is the answer. This makes perfect sense. Even though, veterinarians don't really study neurology a whole lot. I mean, they kind of gloss over it a little bit. I realized in taking the chiropractic courses that neurology was the key to answering all of those other questions I had, including the ones about why do we use drugs the way that we use them. And so I've implemented that ever since. And when I started to include nutrition in my practice, all the drugs on my shelves started going bad because I didn't need them. So I moved off to using just nutrition and chiropractic to help my patients. And I wanted to be able to expand that because there was no way I could help all of the animals everywhere. And then I partnered up with my husband, Dr. Bill Ormston, and we created Animal Chiropractic Education Source so that we could teach more doctors how to do just those things. So that when someone calls me from Timbuktu, I could say, hey, there's a doctor right down the street. Go see them.
I love that. That is really neat. And so, Dr. Amy, I know you've been in practice for quite a while and you've seen a lot of things in the industry. Tell me about some of the struggles that you have seen that veterinarians are facing in their practices.
Absolutely. Because, like I said, veterinarians are when you look up impostor syndrome, there's a picture of a veterinarian there in the dictionary. They live with that quite a bit. And the veterinary profession is changing in a big way. The face of veterinary medicine has gone from, the James Herriot old guy to now more and more women, not just more and more women, but more and more women who are moms, who are running a household, who are doing all kinds of other things. So it's really easy for them to drop into that. I feel like I'm the imposter in this situation. They get that from their clients. They get that from other doctors. And then then they're trying to juggle a practice and make money, and they're still trying to do it on the old system, 80, 90 hours a week. Don't ever pay yourself, do all your own plumbing. It's pretty tough. And one of the things that we've incorporated into Animal Chiropractic Education Source is to help those doctors be able to grow their practice in a way that makes life better so that they can make more money, see more patients, and get home on time. And that's one of the beauties of chiropractic, is that it helps those animals do their part. One of the problems with veterinary medicine is that we see so many failures. In the general population, we don't talk about death the way we talk about it in veterinary medicine. Euthanasia is a pretty regular thing for veterinary practices. And that can be pretty disturbing if you see it all the time, and when you feel like you've failed your client. And one of the best things about chiropractic is it's a great alternative to euthanasia as the only choice. Those animals come and they're happy to come to the clinic. Those clients are happy to bring their animals because they know they're going to go home feeling better. And so it's a great way for veterinarians to overcome some of that. I keep trying, and I see so many of them just live short. And at one point, and I'm trying to remember who said this, someone said that traditional medicine in general is really just prolonging death. If we think about it, even in humans, we spend the most amount of our medical expenses in the last parts of our lives. We spend a lot of time in the hospital getting treatments and then go home and then have a relapse. Veterinary medicine is not a whole lot different. And so with chiropractic, one of the things that we're able to do is to help those animals, number one, even out their cash flow, because they're not spending $5,000 on a surgery because they didn't implement some other health things. What they're doing is spending $50 a month throughout the animal's life to keep that animal from ever needing that surgery. So animal owners actually benefit, but so do veterinarians. They actually get to see that cash flow all year long, as opposed to just those big chunks of the parts of the year when animals are crashing and dying.
I love that. That is so important. I remember for me personally, I probably was introduced to the human chiropractor side probably maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, after a car accident. I'm telling you, I feel like Humpty Dumpty, like my head just gets put back on every time I go to the doctor's office. It's amazing. But Dr. Amy, I think you say a couple of things that are really interesting. One of the things that you help your clients do is, one, not only provide an alternative healthcare system, right, where animals get to live longer, right, because they're not necessarily being drugged up or having that expensive surgery, but a natural, holistic way. But you're building repetitive cash flow, right, almost like a membership, like that $50 a month, where you're helping prolong that life versus spending thousands of dollars on a surgery. So one, that I think that's an amazing thing that you're bringing up there from that standpoint with what you do and what you teach your doctors to do with that. And so, I'm curious about that idea of really veterinarians. One, I imagine I look at your background and all your degrees and all your backgrounds, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not an easy feat at all to get that. And for most veterinarians, they've gone to school. This is a post undergrad degree, right? And for them to feel imposter syndrome, let's explore that a little bit more. Why would someone that is so educated and so, does so much good in the world, why would they suffer from imposter syndrome? Why is this so common in the veterinarian world?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. So one of them, as part of that imposter syndrome, is sometimes they're afraid to charge. And that's a historic event. There are practices out there where the guy's been a veterinarian for 80 years and is still charging the same that he did 60 years ago. You hear those kind of stories all the time. So it comes from that. And the expectation that's built up in the clientele is that everything's going to be $20 when they walk in, And that's not the case. The value of what those clients are getting has become bigger and bigger. And so that's a part of that building for that imposter syndrome. It's the impression that people get. I know James Herriot, some people you might be familiar with the All Creatures Great and Small book series, and about this vet who, ran around and did all these things for crazy people, and it was funny. And yet people still have that impression of what a veterinarian is and does, and that they're going to take, a chicken in return for a surgery or something. So there's a little bit of that going on. It's changing slowly and gradually. But the other part of that imposter syndrome comes from the idea that, we're veterinarians. We work on animals. We don't work on people. So some people don't really envision us as real doctors because we don't have the big hospital. We don't have, a bunch of people running around in white coats and uniforms. And if you don't have the big machinery, you can't possibly be a real doctor. What most people don't realize is that the word doctor really means teacher. And so the doctor is really the person who's there to educate others about health. It's hard to explain to an animal owner who sees their animal every single day and thinks that they understand or know their animal, that something else is going on. So a good example is for people who try to teach nutrition, because everybody eats, right? So everybody must know something about food. Veterinary medicine is a little bit like that. Everybody's got an animal. Everybody's seen a squirrel. They all are pretty sure that they know something about those animals. And maybe they think they know something that the doctor doesn't, and they probably do. I mean, I'm not going to say that they don't know that, their dog likes to XYZ, but what they don't understand is what some of the internal things that they can't see that are going on. So from an animal chiropractic standpoint, we take it even one step further. And we know some of the things that even veterinarians don't consider about those animals that would make their lives easier. So for animal chiropractors, sometimes that's even one more step into that imposter syndrome situation, because now they've actually taken a leap of faith to go do something different. And their colleagues are telling them, oh, you don't know what you're doing. So that kind of sets up even that further. And so then they're afraid to charge a reasonable price. So we said that $50 a month, but a really reasonable price for a dog chiropractic adjustment is should be probably closer to $100, because the value that client gets from that adjustment is really hard to think about this way. So what would you pay if there were someone who, everybody drives to work, right? They're going down the road and you're always a little bit late because you never really planned for that one last thing you did as you left the house. And you come upon a wreck in the road and traffic is backed up. What is everybody willing to pay, maybe as a once a month fee, to be able to not have to deal with those make me late for work situations? We have to think about animal chiropractic a little bit that way. The animal chiropractor is the person who provides that. You don't ever have to wait for a wreck in the road service. You can get to work even if you leave 10 minutes late because you've already taken care of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. And I know we've had some conversations off air too, where, especially if you're in a rural area with a lot of farmers, there's scientific differences too between animals that are adjusted regularly versus your traditional animal and that's traditionally farm raised, right? They're bigger, they taste better, and they potentially, I'm probably gonna make up a word, could even live longer there. So there's some scientific, backing too for the work that's being done. And I think you bring up a good point too with it too, is like, you have the veterinarian that's been practicing for, decades. And if he's still charging the same price, right, the cost of medicine has increased, right? The cost of his rent has increased since he started his practice. And so naturally, in order to continue to provide that great service level, right, and hire the best and be in a place that, you want to bring your animal that's beloved, right, you're going to need to charge a price that really demands that. So I think that's some very, very, very good new information there, Dr. Amy, with that. And so, Dr. Amy, I'm curious, because, you've got the experience as being both a private practitioner now, as well as being a teacher and instructor. That helps veterinarians really achieve their record-breaking profitability and record-breaking revenue in your practice management. Tell me about what is some things that a veterinarian practice can do in order to really set themselves up in order to be profitable.
Oh, that's a great question. So there's the really obvious one for me is to use a profit first accounting method, because veterinarians don't tend to do that. They tend to pay themselves last. They tend to, pay all their bills first. And a typical veterinary practice has a really high overhead. They've got drugs, they're still paying for machinery, they're still paying for CE, they're still paying for their licensing, they're still paying for the building, they're paying for all their support staff. And it tends to get higher and higher. As a matter of fact, in traditional veterinary continuing education, a lot of the training is how to use my new whatever machine it is, and it's only $40,000. And you can put that in your practice and start making more money today. One of the things that Animal Chiropractic does is it helps put a new service in a practice that doesn't have that overhead. So by adding Animal Chiropractic, it actually can help triage some of those patients, but it can also bring down the overhead costs. So the net profits go up while the overhead comes down. So that's one of the ways that we help veterinarians and chiropractors, but veterinarian hospitals in general, bring their net up or make more profit, is to add animal chiropractic. It doesn't take up space. It doesn't need refurbishing. It doesn't get old. The software doesn't outdate in a year. It's always there. It's always something that practice can use. So that's one really good way. And then to really hone in on the ideal client, there are veterinary practices. Some veterinary practices have done that, where you'll hear of cat-only practices. And when those first started showing up, people thought, that's a little weird. Who would just be a cat doctor? Because aren't veterinarians cat, dog, pig, chicken, whatever? But finding that niche, finding that ideal client, that clientele that really you're able to help. What happens is you become the specialist in that particular, and there are hundreds of thousands of niches in terms of animals. Here at our practice, people come from long ways away. They fly in to see us if they have IPO and shits and dogs. Those are those dogs that do personal protection and agility and bite work, that kind of thing. Think like a police dog. They come from all over because of the kinds of work that we've been able to do with them. That doesn't mean we started out that way, but we found clients who we liked working with them. They liked our work. And so we cultivated that relationship. And so that's another thing that veterinary practices can do, is just cultivate the relationship with those clients that are their ideal client. I had another one, and I'm thinking about it for just a second. One of the other things they can do is certainly to don't keep your hours don't be at the beck and call of everyone out there. And here's the reason. And for some people, the part of that imposter syndrome comes from the fact that veterinarians typically, they're open all day. Christmas is not people walk in with their dying animal on Christmas Day and say, here, can you fix it? Because as doctors, we're really teachers. We're really here to empower our clients to know, when are they sick, or are they going to get sick, or how can I prevent these things? As teachers, if we can empower our clients more to know those things, then we don't end up with those late night emergencies because we see it coming. And that's one of the things that Animal Chiropractic does, because we see those patients more frequently, albeit not for very long, because a chiropractic adjustment on most animals, even on a horse, takes 10 minutes, but we see them more often. So we're able to see things coming on. Oh, your dog's gaining some weight. We should take care of that. Those kinds of things. The other part that we want to make sure of, so we want to hone that client. We want to get the right kind of client. And then we're able to spend more time with those kind of clients. But if we have those clients who show up late at night or last minute or whatever, they take up more of our time, and they actually prevent us from seeing more of the clients that would be, better, more compliant with what we ask them to do. So those are all ways to improve the practice, but also to improve income. And as far as animal chiropractic goes, one of the areas that it's growing into right now is food animal adjusting, and not just the show animals. I mean, some people out there don't know there are chicken shows and cattle shows. I mean, a show chicken is a pretty expensive bird. They don't live very long though. But even our show cows and show pigs and show sheep they're highly, you think horse trailers are expensive. You should see a pig trailer. So those animals benefit from a chiropractic adjustment. But even to get down to the consumer level, the animals that are raised for meat and eggs and fiber and all those things, they actually do better when they're adjusted. So adding animal chiropractic, even to a farm, a rural veterinary practice, is a great way to save your farmers money, because they save money on feed, they save money on labor. The animals are easier to handle. The other thing it does is it levels out the cash flow of that farm practice. And when we scale that practice, when we're able to hire additional doctors in that practice, and it makes it easier. We can assign them to traditional veterinary medicine protocols and then do just the chiropractic ourselves. And we've actually got doctors who do this. Then you can take vacation, which doesn't really happen in those rural practices as much.
No, I love that. There's so many good tidbits in there, from the niching down. I know I'm a big fan of Mike McCowett's book, Surge. One of the things he talks about is niching because, it's like when you look at general practitioners versus those that specialize, right? It's the specialization that commands a higher price. And, being a layman that's not a veterinarian for myself, I imagine though it takes a lot different, you want to put different pressure and different strength in adjusting a cat versus a pig, is what I imagine. And so you want somebody that just adjusts cats, if you have a cat, right? Versus someone that adjusts bigger animals that may require more strength, right? So I can see that really advantage of going to a specialized veterinarian who specializes in that animal, that from a layman, from my perspective as a layman, from that side on there. And definitely, when you go to a chiropractor, it's not a once in a lifetime adjustment, right? It's something that you continue to do in order to maintain your health. And that's the same way for animals. And so it definitely stabilizes that revenue source too for you. Now, Dr. Amy, as a veterinarian looks at implementing this into their practice, where do they start? Where do they start in terms of implementing chiropractic into their practice for caring for animals?
The first thing, so if they want to take the class, that's one way. To be certified is really important because it does a lot of different things. Being certified gives you that credibility. It also puts you into a group of other animal chiropractors, because we're all better when, we're herd animals. We're all better in a herd. We can share information. You have resources. So your experience level is much higher, even from day one, if you are a part of that group. So getting certified is really important. If, for instance, a veterinary office, maybe it's a solo person and they don't want to be the animal chiropractor, hire an animal chiropractor into your office. Have them come in once a month, or probably once a week. I would probably do it every day, but once a week at least, to see patients. I'm a little biased, but I would recommend hiring an ACEs graduate over another animal chiropractor, because they're going to be able to explain to your clients why they should get an adjustment. And they're also going to be able to refer those patients back to the doctor when they need to. Now, that doesn't mean other animal chiropractors wouldn't, but our ACEs graduates are particularly good at making sure that connection is there.
Oh, yeah. What a great market differentiator, too. Not only are you a veterinarian, but now you also have this holistic line of offerings that you're able to offer your clients, too, through the chiropractor type of medicine, which is really neat. And one of the things that I admire about Dr. Amy, too, is, as part of her school, they also have a practice management portion of their school where they actually help you not only implement this chiropractic into your practice, but really how to do it profitably, right? And do that successfully while reaching your financial goals too, which is really, really neat. And so, Dr. Amy, who is a great candidate for being able to explore implementing that into their practice?
Any doctor who is a veterinarian or a chiropractor, or many of our students who start our class also are veterinary students in their last 2 years and chiropractic students in their last 2 years. Many of those, we have some of those doctors who, for instance, went to chiropractic school specifically to become animal chiropractors. So many of those doctors actually have animal science degrees and went to chiropractic school and then are coming to learn animal chiropractic. Those students who are coming to us from veterinary schools really want to be able to be a part of that big change in the overall veterinary profession, to move it forward into a realistic, I want to have my life and be able to practice and see animals and help them too. So veterinary students, chiropractors, and chiropractic students qualify for our course, we have a lot of people who are not in those situations who contact us, and we can actually help them understand the course that they might want to take in order to eventually become an animal chiropractor as well. Because our goal isn't just to teach animal chiropractic. We really want them to go out and build a successful practice. We want to know that they're adjusting animals and making money. If they're not making money, they can't help anyone. And it won't help us because we won't be able to refer to them. There won't be anyone out there for us to refer to. And there's no, like I said before, animals come to us from all over the country. Sometimes we consult with animals all over the world, not animals, but animal owners. And so we want to be able to have a doctor there who's got eyes and a brain like what we're looking for to make sure that what we're telling them is true.
I love that. So when you have a healthy company, when you have healthy profitability, you're able to continue to do the good in the world, just like Dr. Amy says. So it's important that you're successful as you're implementing this into your practice. And she is definitely the source to help you be successful in that. Now, Dr. Amy, as we wind down, you can leave our viewers and listeners with one piece of advice. It can be personal, it can be business. What would that one piece of advice be?
There's a few of them. So as veterinarians or as animal chiropractors, my one important piece of advice I always tell our students is charge your clients until you like them. If you don't like them, you're not charging enough.
Very good advice. Yeah, you got to enjoy what you do. You definitely got to enjoy what you do. And you definitely need to provide a good service. And if you're a better provider, that's not going to work for you. So definitely some very, very wise pieces of morsels, Dr. Amy. Thank you for sharing that. And then my last question is, Dr. Amy, how do we contact you? How do we contact you to either find a chiropractic veterinarian or become a chiropractic veterinarian?
Awesome. So to find me, an animal chiropractic, you can find it at animalchiropracticeducation.com. You can contact us through the website. Our phone number is there. You can contact us through that phone number as well. And if you're already an animal chiropractor and would like to build that practice and grow it even more, I actually provide a coaching service. And you can find me at amyhayek.com. So those two websites, animalchiropracticeducation.com or amyhayek.com.
Well, thank you, Dr. Amy. This was wonderful spending time with you and talking about increasing profitability and veterinarians. So I definitely appreciate that. I'm going to put Dr. Amy's contact information in our show notes so that you can reach her and reach out to her to either find a veterinarian who specializes in chiropractic or actually become one yourself. Thank you, Dr. Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Susanne. It's always great to be with you. And I always learn some new things from you as well that help us to continue to help these animal chiropractors to grow their practices. Thanks so much for having me here.
Thank you.